I asked for your assumptions about studying economics and I got over 70 replies. And now I want to just address those to make sure you understand whether your assumptions are true or not. That's what economics is about, questioning your assumptions. So the first assumption is that a bachelor's of science in economics is better than a bachelor's of arts. Never have I ever heard anyone ask if it's a bachelor's of science or bachelor's of art. I personally don't even know which one that I have. Just take the classes that are good and prove that you've learned something. I think economics makes you a good stock trader. No, Wall Street Bets does. One said getting an economics degree without studying econometrics is useless. Another said it's impossible to get any internships before taking econometrics. I think this is an overstatement. We're being a bit hyperbolic when we say it's worthless if you don't study econometrics. The proper way of framing this is saying econometrics opens up way more opportunity for you. But many students aren't even interested in the career paths that econometrics offers. So it's bizarre to say it's worthless without econometrics. I definitely encourage people to go take as much econometrics as possible. That is one of my rules for picking your economics classes. You should definitely go check out that video if you're trying to figure out what you want to study. But to say that your degree is worthless without econometrics, totally false. To say that you can't get an internship without econometrics, also false. I think internships are overrated, by the way. If you want my opinion on that, let me know in the comments below. I'm a computer science grad student, have been a data scientist for close to 3 years, and I feel majoring in economics will give me an edge both during my machine learning classes and future job roles. This is similar to the econometrics idea, but Sanjeet is going just full depth machine learning data scientist CS grad, which is great. And I agree that economics will come and enrich those studies. Economics is about understanding what is behind the process of the data that you analyze. Many of the techniques that you learn in machine learning and other types of data science, they're there to probe the patterns within the data. But without the economic reasoning, those patterns often don't make sense. For example, I'm working on a paper right now where I'm looking at a business after coronavirus hit and looking at what happened to prices. And obviously with coronavirus, you're getting a lot of businesses that are going down. But this business actually improved. They had higher prices. They had greater revenues as a result. And without economics, without the reasoning of supply and demand and trying to think through what's happening in this situation, this would look really bizarre. It would appear that the pandemic was good for business. Speaking of business, my assumption, I think it makes you good at running a business. I hope so. I had the dean of the business school approach me and say he wishes the one lesson that his business students could learn is marginal thinking, which is an economics concept. But other than that, I don't know if it necessarily makes you better at business than any other degree. In a similar vein, there are kind of a lot of business type classes like accounting, management, or corporate finance. Look, I have a PhD in economics and I have never taken an accounting class. I've never taken a management class and I've never taken a finance class of any type. It depends on the program. You might be at a school where the program requires you to take accounting. I went to a program that did not require accounting or any of these other classes for economics. It's hard to get a job with an economics degree. I think there is no career opportunities in studying economics in the future. It'll be hard to find a career in just this field that isn't teaching. I cannot believe there are still people who think there are no jobs for people who want to study economics. Look, I have done so many videos on this. I recently did one on whether there are jobs for economics majors, explaining that people just do not understand the model for job matching, how businesses hire people and how different majors get hired into different jobs. It's impossible to get into an economics centered career without a master's degree or PhD. I'm not quite sure what you mean by an economics centered career. Maybe you're thinking the types of responsibilities that you would have are different because you don't have a master's or a PhD, but what I think of an economic-centered career where you're working on maybe markets, you're working on data analytics, you're working on policy even. There are so many opportunities to be involved in those careers without having to go and get a master's or PhD in economics. In fact, I keep referencing these other videos. I did just recently a video about whether you should go get a PhD. And I talked about how a PhD is mostly for whether you are interested in an academic role. I think you underestimate the job opportunities available even if you stop at a bachelor's degree. No one expects it to be as intensely complex and deep as it really is. I think this is true. I think this is why economics does so well in the popular space, because it takes topics that people are interested in and then shows them the depth behind them. This is why books like Freakonomics tend to do really well. It shows the hidden side of things. Studying economics will only be profitable if you live in a rich country. For the developing world, it doesn't give much of an edge. I actually don't know this. I've had a lot of people comment in the past that economics degrees are really helpful in other countries, but I don't know what the split is for like poor countries versus rich countries. If you are from a less developed country, let me know in the comments below. Economics suffers from physics envy. This is an old critique of economics. It's been around for a long time. This was true when people were writing models about economic behavior. They were borrowing a lot of concepts from physics, and then they were trying to apply those to economics. And we're trying to use math really well to explain the economic concepts. And there is a role for this. There's a reason why we do this. Danny Roderick says that we don't use math because we think we're smart. We use it because we are not smart enough to communicate the concepts that we have at hand. If we suffer from physics envy because we want to use math to convey the concepts, I don't think that's the case. We're trying to use math to be more precise about the concepts we're discussing. If you want to know where I'm envious of physics, it's where they are able to study the same phenomena over and over again. So like, let's take gravity. I pick up my phone, I let go, it falls. I let go, it falls. If I bring it to the same spot every time, it will fall at the same speed every single time. In economics, we have this really frustrating problem where people make choices. It's just so infuriating that people can choose to do things, and they can do stupid things. They can choose to buy something when the price is higher. They can choose to do things that are going to hurt them. In physics, you don't have to worry about those problems. And so you get these really nice answers and you make really quick progress. And you can repeat the experiments over and over again, and you can write down a formula and it will exactly predict that there's going to be a black hole and this is what it's going to look like. In economics, we can say, hey, here's a policy we're interested in and this is what we think is going to happen. But guess what? We run it and it turns out the way we implemented it doesn't work exactly right. It turns out that people misinterpreted what we said and people make stupid choices and it ruins everything. That's the frustrating thing with economics. Physics is easy. Physics is the same thing over and over again because it's dealing with the physical world. Economics is hard. It's dealing with people. Economics is closer to science rather than humanities. This is definitely true recently. Historically, economists love to talk about big ideological questions like capitalism versus communism, these big ideas where ultimately the answer is undefined or poorly defined. Like, it's just going to be really hard to come to an exact answer. Today, economists are much more likely to say, what is the effect of a healthcare policy on healthcare expenditures? We have a very narrow question that can be answered with data and with a scientific-like experiment. So we're much more like scientists today than we ever have been historically. Economics majors are especially goal-oriented. I don't know. We do like to maximize our utility subject to a budget constraint, so maybe. Economics in academia is male-dominated. Yes, this is true, but I think we're making good progress on this. You can only get accepted into PhD programs if you have a connection. This is not completely true, but it is the case that the most important part of your application is your letters of recommendation. So make sure that you do a lot to form those relationships with your professors so that way they can write good letters for you. Yes, it's the case if you have professors who know people at that school, they can kind of call them up and say, make sure you look at this person. So there is an advantage to having connections, but the more important part is making sure you have professors who can say something about who you are personally and your potential for graduate school. Needs so much math. So economics definitely leans heavily on math, but it's not that you can't be successful if you don't know math. I hope you want to be better at math, because learning math is incredibly important for building up your skills, for being able to do the data analytics, the econometrics that make economics majors so valuable. But programs vary in their level of dependency on math. So where I went to school as an undergrad, yeah, they required a lot of math. Where I teach right now, we don't require as much math. You can tailor the program where you take more math intensive courses, but if you're not super strong in math, you have the opportunity to take a lighter load. But again, I hope you're not shying away from the math. I hope you're looking at that math and saying, this is important. There are careers that value these skills, and I want to develop those. I'm not going to cower away from this opportunity. Take those math classes, get out there and become better. You need to minor or double major for your econ degree to be worth it. I don't think that's true at all, but I do have a video on good minors for economics majors. If it's not up here in the corner, it will be in the links in the description. Economics students feel jealous of business and finance majors that they don't have to go through tiresome math proofs and problem sets that can't be related to real life. I am not jealous of business majors because of that. I'm jealous because they don't do all those things and they still get paid better at my school. You were taught a lot of Excel and Visual Basic, yet you use other programming languages tools like R or Python. Nothing in my undergraduate classes required Excel or VBA or any of these things. We learned Stata. In our program, we try to teach students both Stata and a little bit of R or Python. Again, I think this depends on the program that you're at. Definitely look for those classes where you're doing R, Python, or Stata, something like that where you're getting into data analytics. It's a waste of money studying economics at college. This is so far from the truth that you should just go check out the video I did on how much economics increases your salary. It's a lot. If you have other questions, let me know in the comments below, and maybe we'll do another video like this. We'll see you next time on Market Power.